So the beauty of log and timber mills and places that can use um, forest products is that not only are you using a sustainable, natural, renewable resource as the source and the raw materials for the products that you're making, but by using those products, by getting into the forest, by thinning the forest, you're making the forest more healthy. You're cutting down on the fire danger. You're cutting down on the migration and the susceptibility of disease and the migration of beetles and things like that moving through the forest. So you're not only using a sustainable, natural, renewable resource as your raw materials, but you're also making the forest more healthy at the same time. Also, it helps cover the cost. So when we're buying product from, like a thinning project from the U.S. Forest Department, for instance, or private land, those private landowners or the U.S. Forest Department, they're able to take in money by selling the stumpage fees or whatever they charge for allowing the loggers to get in and to log those areas, so that they're able to help cover their cost of going in and thinning the forest. And if you have large masses of property, especially mountain properties, you're able to go through, and by the time you've gone through and thinned a whole large piece of property, it's time to get started again and go back and thin it again. So it's an ongoing expense of keeping the forest healthy. Even clearing wildlife corridors and things like that are very important, because you're creating a fire break. So if there is a fire in the forest, that fire can't spread through the forest, because there's areas that can only go so far. There's a break in the forest, and even areas that have been burned, for instance. So over the years, we've gone through, and some areas that were devastated with the forest fires where they didn't thin and cut, we were able to go in and harvest the trees that were burned in the fire. So the branches were burned off, even the bark had fallen off in some of these areas, but you got these beautiful standing dead trees. And if they would have just been left alone, so if they would have done nothing in those areas, it would take decades for that area to come back and to regrow. So there's so many different benefits of using a sustainable, natural, renewable resource as a product that you can turn into beautiful homes, furniture, all different types of products. You're making something that is good for the environment, and it's the best way you can go, the best way you can manage the forest. And if you have an outlet, then you can cover cost and help make it more of a sustainable proposition. So R value is how they gear the energy efficiency of a home. And it's a little bit of a misconception. Now, there is some obvious benefits to having a high R value home, but what they're not taking into consideration is the thermal mass effect. So for instance, with a high R value home, your heat is controlled within that envelope. So in other words, the heat comes on. Since it's higher R value, you're not going to lose that energy. It's not going to cool off as fast. The difference between that and a log home, or even an adobe home, for instance, you have the thermal mass effect. So once you heat the structure, not only is the inside being warmed and that inside that envelope warming up, but also the walls themselves are warming up with the temperature of that environment. So now when the heat kicks off, the walls are warm, giving you a longer time to sustain that temperature. So it's not about R value, it's about the thermal mass of those walls. So you use actually less heating energy, even though the R value might not be as high as other products. And so I just think, it's a no-brainer to me, Basically, it comes down to just creative problem solving. I would look at, okay, this is the area that I have to work with. This is what we're trying to accomplish by thinning and cutting this area. So now all of a sudden you're like, okay, what can I do with those materials? And I've come up with just tons of different ideas that you can use green materials and smaller diameter materials for. You can mill small diameter tenons for railings, things like that. So we have machines that can mill the tenons on the end of the railings, punch the holes in the top and bottom rails to accept the balusters. Just having the big barn and the workshop, areas where you can actually work and manufacture those products. You've got the turning lathe for the larger diameter stuff, and even the bandsaw to cut big square and rectangular posts and beams, things like that. You can even make wall logs out of those. furniture, all different types of products with that large bandsaw. The bandsaw has the ability to cut really long timbers, which is unique. So you can cut up to almost 40-foot long timbers on the bandsaw, and we've cut the largest we've ever cut on that, and this isn't a normal call, but 16 by 24 inch beams that were 36 foot long. And then the turning lathe, we can go from 7-inch, that'd be probably something you'd more use for like playhouses and smaller like little sheds and whatnot. 8-inch could be used for small cabins. 9-inch could also be used for that. Once you get up to 10-inch, you could do more homes. 12-inch is another size we have. And 15-inch is the largest diameter wall log that we can mill. And so with each one of those different diameters, you have a hole saw that cuts the corner notches so that they fit together and they lock together, creating a really solid product, and it looks really cool. You can literally manufacture an entire log home just with that one main piece of equipment. And then the bandsaw is used to cut the starter logs and things like that. And so, we have the large crane for when you're putting heavy trusses up high, lifting things high up and over homes and on the roofs and things like that. And you can drive the crane to and from wherever you're needing to move it. Also, we have a couple of telehandlers. So the telehandler is a telescoping forklift, and so we use that for everything from, if we bring in, if we're buying large dead standing timbers from different thinning projects or forest projects, we unload the log trucks with that. We move around, the big logs to the bandsaw to load the tray for the turning lathe. The large telehandler will go up like 40 feet tall. I mean, it's a really high lift, but you can lift the logs up onto the walls, so again, cutting down on manpower, and then just it's safer to use those things to do that. And so that's a really critical piece of equipment. So the beauty of the system that we've come up with to mill and manufacture log and timber frame homes, we use a 3D CAD program that my draftsman has. I bought a module that makes his design program more dynamic. What that does is, by doing a 3D design of the home, not only do you see what the house looks like from different angles, or whatever the project is, whether it's a pavilion or a sign or whatever it is, you're able to design this on that program. You get an actual more accurate look of what it's going to actually look like, so that's very powerful. So you can see it in color or whatever. With this module that we own, it can take it from just a design. It gives you a cut list of every individual log that you have to cut and mill before you have to put it together. So in other words, you can mill an entire very complicated log structure. You can mill every part and piece according to this cut list, and you can mill it, put it in bunks, ship it, or you can send it right to the project site without having to pre-put it together and take it apart. So you're cutting down on a huge expense of labor for putting this together, taking it apart, and then rebunking it. I've been building homes in the mountains for almost 20 years now. I've had my general contractor's license for a little over 18 years. So we've been building, beautiful homes up here all over the Rockies, the southern part of the Rocky Mountains, for a long time. And I built, all different types of products. So we've done roster block homes, we've done a log and timber frame, things that are just not the norm. So I kind of have a broad knowledge of your non-standard building techniques that most people aren't knowledgeable across the board. So I guess I'm a specialist in a lot of different things, lots of different construction methods and techniques. So being a general contractor up here that long, you know how to go through the process of getting your permits and meeting codes and doing everything properly, building a safe product. Also, we have to, we always have to meet the environmental and energy efficiency standards through that process. So we've been doing that for many years. Gosh, we started the mill almost 12 years ago now. We make products that other mills around the country don't make. There's some mills out there that make things that we don't make, and so there's kind of an industry-wide relationship that we've had over the years. Basically, we have a lot of industry connections. By actually being a manufacturer, that's a big deal. That puts me in a little different situation. So I don't have to buy my windows from the lumberyard. I can buy mine direct from other manufacturers. And we've set up, so our windows, we have a distributorship with Pella Window Company. We get stone from another company, the cultured stone that we use on a lot of projects. And that could be even grown. There could be other products that we could get distributorships with because we're a manufacturer. And basically what that's doing is it's cutting your cost. So by having the three-phase power at the mill, I mean, one of the best parts of that is your bigger motors. You're actually using a little less energy when you're using these bigger motors, even though they're larger. So you're not using as much energy to run these machines as you would if it was not three-phase. So that's a big benefit. So we can add additional equipment to the mill because we have the three-phase power at the mill. There's lots of equipment that you have to have three-phase power to run, especially big heavy equipment. So having three-phase at the mill just opens up so many opportunities, and it also gets your energy consumption down. So one of my favorite things to do is all around Angel Fire, you have some really dated older homes in this area. I'm able to go in a lot of times and I can look at a home, and by doing a design of what this could look like by adding timbers and log accents, things like that, you can totally transform the looks of an existing structure into something that's more fitting or even more practical. So we can go in after the fact, add a covered porch with a log truss or a timber truss that we can manufacture ourselves, and railings and different things. Cover that porch, it protects it, it makes it last longer, and it's more usable. So in other words, if it's raining outside and the mountain ranges are so cold, you can sit out on the porch if it's covered, and the homes are so much more attractive and so much more fitting and more practical.